My name is Dr. Adiv Paradise, and I study the climates of alien worlds. What might it be like on an alien planet? What kind of life might it support? And what does it tell us about the likelihood of us finding alien life somewhere out there? Whether or not astronomers believe in aliens is a bit of a complicated question, because usually one of two things is meant. Either you mean, are there aliens out there, out on some other planet? In which case, most astronomers would probably admit to suspecting that yes, there are aliens out there. And that's because there are so many planets out there. The universe is a very, very big place. And physics works the same on any planet. So given the right conditions, most of us think it's probably safe to assume that life could arise somewhere else as well. But if you're asking about aliens here on Earth, UFOs, or alien visits in the past, and alien intervention to help build things like the pyramids or the Sphinx or other ancient monuments, then most astronomers are probably going to say, no, we don't think that that's probably aliens. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, it would raise more questions than it would answer. But also, oftentimes these ideas that aliens are why we have these ancient monuments built by ancient cultures, often cultures of color, is rooted in a bit of racism. The assumption that ancient cultures couldn't possibly have built the pyramids or other monuments without help, when in fact we know that given what they knew, they probably could. We don't really know what alien life would look like, but we can make some guesses. For one, it's often safe to assume that form is going to follow function. Any kind of life is going to evolve to suit its needs. Now, what do we mean by life? When we're looking for life elsewhere, that's really hard to define. So we start with what we know here on Earth. On Earth, life takes in resources and it produces waste. It reproduces. It uses complex information-carrying molecules like RNA and DNA and proteins in order to preserve information about itself and pass on information to the next generation. And life on Earth is able to create contained environments where the inside is separate from the outside, like cells. Now that's a little bit contentious because there are things like viruses that may not have that, but we're not totally sure if viruses should count as alive or not. But when we look for life elsewhere, we tend to look for things that fit what we recognize as life. And when it comes to the actual search for alien life, searching for habitable Earth-like planets, we try to hew even closer to home, because there might well be life out there that is completely unlike life here on Earth, but we might not recognize it. So we start by looking for aliens that might make use of carbon, might make use of water, oxygen, and they might leave signatures in their atmosphere, biosignatures, that might be the telltale footprint that there's alien life out there. As for what alien life would physically look like, that might very well depend on their environment. Evolution tends to promote efficient solutions to common problems. Here on Earth, for example, photosynthesis evolved initially, but then it proliferated. C4 photosynthesis, a much more advanced form of photosynthesis that has a much more complex molecular mechanism, has evolved over 60 different times, independently each time, because that's a very efficient solution to a common problem facing plants. So we can expect that given a certain condition, a certain challenge that life has to meet elsewhere in the universe, it might come up with a similar solution. Animals and organisms on land that need to move around tend to have legs. Legs are a very efficient solution to getting around. If there's a planet out there that is covered in oceans and doesn't have any land, then perhaps any intelligent life that arises might have tentacles. Tentacles have evolved many times on Earth. They're very good for moving things around, for controlling the environment around you. Perhaps such a planet would be inhabited by squid people or octopi people, or perhaps lobster people. If alien life is common, which we think that it might be, then where is everyone? This is what we call the Fermi paradox. If the universe is crowded, then why have we not encountered anyone yet? We don't really know the answer to this question, but there are a couple possible explanations. One potential explanation is that the same reason that we think there might be aliens out there, that the universe is very big with many planets, might also be the explanation. The universe is very, very big. Even our galaxy is very, very big. And even optimistic estimates of how many civilizations might be out there at a given time could still put them many tens of light years apart. And that could lead to a seemingly empty sky, because even with our fastest existing spacecraft, New Horizons travels at 13.85 kilometers per second. It has only gone a tiny, tiny fraction of the way to the nearest star. That's less than 1% of 1 light year. And the nearest civilization might be tens of light years, hundreds of light years, or even much further away. So that might cause a problem. Maybe aliens can only communicate via radio broadcasts. But even then, we have been transmitting radio for around 100 years. So our radio broadcasts could potentially be detected by an alien civilization 100 light years away. And optimistic estimates could certainly put an alien civilization that close. However, the strength of our broadcasts decreases with the distance squared. That means that as you get further away, the quieter and quieter and quieter the signal gets. By the time it reaches them, it may be completely undetectable. To make matters worse, as time goes on, we get quieter ourselves as well. We invent new, better radio transmitters and receivers, which means we don't have to broadcast quite as loudly. So it may be that the universe is absolutely full of life, but because everyone is far apart and acting very quietly, we don't see or hear anyone. In order to try to find alien life, we've got a couple different pots on the burner. One initiative is called SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And SETI works by scanning the sky for any kind of radio transmission that might be reaching us from a distant star. Now, we've only barely scratched the surface here. Jill Tarter, the former director of the Center for SETI Research, describes it as dipping a glass into the ocean and looking for life in that glass. Even if you don't find life in that glass, that doesn't mean that there isn't life in the ocean. We've only barely begun to look for these broadcasts in terms of the entire spectrum and the entire range of the sky where we might encounter it. We've also only been looking for a very, very short time. We've only been listening for less than a century. Another way that we might find life is by trying to find where life is, looking for planets that might have climates suitable for life, trying to determine what their climates are like, how warm is it, might there be liquid water, looking for signatures of that life. Is there oxygen in their atmosphere? Is there ozone? How about carbon dioxide? And perhaps if we were to watch a planet long enough, we might see another civilization much like ours, changing their atmosphere, increasing the amount of carbon dioxide. Personally, I do suspect that there's alien life out there. I don't think that Earth has been visited in the past or in the present, but I do think that given the sheer number of planets out there, given that we've already discovered dozens in the habitable zone at the right distance from their star to potentially have liquid water, and that are the right size too, I think it's possible we may have even already discovered a planet that has life on it. We just don't know it yet.